Welcome to this next lecture of business statistics. Uh, in this lecture, we are going to cover next step of business statistics. So, from this lecture, we are going to discuss central tendency and its various types, mean, median, and mode in detail with numerical solutions. So, what basically central tendency means? So, central tendency is a fundamental concept of statistics, which basically describes summary of data set, that is central tendency. So, before starting with the meaning of central tendency, let's understand with an example. Suppose you have a data of marks in science which is obtained by student in class 12, and you want to analyze it's statistically. So what statistical technique will you employ on it? So you can of course organize the data with the help of classification and tabulation, which we have already discussed in our previous video lectures in previous units. And the data can also be graphically represented. So, but if you want to further analyze the data, then you can compute the average marks obtained by the whole class, or you can find out the middle value or midpoint for the marks. And you can also find out the below which will lie half of the students, or you can also find out the most frequent marks obtained by the student. So the techniques you are employing here are mean, median, and mode, which are the most important part of the central tendency. So these are also called measures of central tendency, mean, median, and mode, and they can be categorized under descriptive statistics. Okay, so this descriptive statistics also we have discussed in our previous lectures. So in the previous unit, we discussed about classification, tabulation, and the graphical representation of data. But in the present unit, we will disclose the measure of central tendency with the help of mean, median, and the mode. So we will not only understand what these techniques are, but we will also focus on their properties, their advantage, and their limitation. Further, we will also learn how to compute mean, median, and mode from grouped and ungrouped data with the help of numerical and their solutions. So now let's understand with the meaning of central tendency. What is actually central tendency means? So basically, central tendency is a fundamental concept in statistics which aims to describe a set of data by identifying a single representative value that best summarize the distribution of the data points. So basically, it provides a measure of the center or typical value around which the data tends to be clustered. So basically in statistics, central tendency is the descriptive summary of the data. So, as we all discussed, that central tendency cover is a descriptive statistics. So, through the single value from the data set, it can reflect the center of the data distribution. Also, it does not provide information regarding individual data from the data set, where you can find out the summary of the data set. Generally, central tendency of the data set can be defined by using measures in the statistically or in statistics. So we generally in central tendency we use mean, median, and mode to find out the value. Okay, so let me tell you the definition of central tendency. So basically, the definition of central tendency says that The central tendency is an statistical measure, basically which represent the single value of the entire distribution or a data set. So basically it aims to provide an accurate description of the entire data in the distribution. So, on the basis of the meaning and definition of center tendency, there we can say that this center tendency have some basic features to measure. Center tendency provide a summary figure with the help of which a certain location of the whole data can be explained. So when we compute an average of a certain group of data, we get an idea about the whole data. Okay, so large amount of data can be easily reduced to a single figure with the help of statistical analysis by the with the help of central tendency by using mean, median and mode, which are the part of central tendency. We can compute a large data and a single figure can be derived from the large data. So when mean is computed for a certain sample, it will help in providing population mean. So the result which we obtain from computing from measuring central tendency will help in making certain decisions, as we have also discussed in previous lecture, where we have to collect the data, analyze the data and interpret the data, and on the basis of interpretation decision is made. So a central tendency also help in making certain decision, as it is a part of analysis of data. So this holds true and not only the decision with regard to research, but it could also applied in various areas like policy making, marketing, and sales, and so on. So if we want if there is a comparison can be carried out based on single figure which we compute with the help of central tendency, uh, we can say that it give a accurate value. For example, with regard to performance of student in mathematics test, the mean marks can be obtained by using mean, which can be compared, which we can also compare with the boys marks, and we can also compare it with the girls marks. So how this central tendency work now? uh, let's discuss the importance of central tendency. What are the importance of central tendency? So basically, for understanding central tendency, it is very important because it simplify complex data and drive a meaningful insight from it. So instead of dealing with a large number of individual data point, central tendency basically provide a concise summary that can help in interpreting and decision making across various fields such as economics, sociology, medical, planning, health sector, and many more. So there are several reasons why central tendency play a crucial role in statistic and data analysis. So if we talk about the importance, then it summarize the data. It will making comparisons between the data, basis for future analysis. It helps in decision making. It helps in interpreting data distribution, and it helps in communicating results. So let's discuss all these points with their meaning, what they want to say. So some summarizing data. Basically, central tendency provides a single value that represent a center of a data set. So this make it easier to understand and to interpret large amount of data by considering it into a manageable form. So, for example, instead of looking at each individual test score in a class, you can use the average or you can use the mean score to get a quick overview of how well the class performance for overall. So this is how mean or you can say central tendency helps in summarizing their data. Next point is making comparisons. So central tendency basically allow for comparisons between different group of database or data set. So by calculating and comparing mean, median, or you can say mode of different groups, researcher can identify the pattern or the trend or the difference in the behavior or in the outcomes of a data set. For example, comparing the average income level of a different region helps in understanding disparities in economic development. So, how this mean, median, and mode, which are the part of central tendency, help in making the comparison between different groups and different data sets. Next, in basis for future analysis. So, measure of central tendency serves a foundation for more advanced statistical analysis. So, basically, they provide initial insight that can guide more sophisticated techniques such as regression analysis, correlation analysis, hypothesis testing to get an instant result. So, for example, knowing if you want to know the average rainfall in a region over a several year, so can be starting point of studying its impact on agriculture yield or water resource management. This could be found with the help of central tendency. Next is decision making. So, central tendency helps in decision making process as let's understand with an example how it helps in decision making. So, in business, knowing the average customer satisfaction rating can influence marketing strategies of product. Okay, in healthcare sector, understand if we understand the average recovery time for a specific treatment, we can aid in patient care planning and resource allocation. Okay, so basically, when we analyze the data with the help of technique and we interpretate the data, so that interpretation basically helps in decision making, in various decision making, so that we can improve the limitations or the disadvantages we are facing in our organization. Next is interpreting data distribution. So basically, central tendency is often complemented by measuring of dispersion. Dispersions like variances or standard deviation, which basically provide insight into how spread out or concentrate the data point uh, around the central value. Basically, central tendency and dispersion measure both give a more complete picture of the distribution of data, which enhance the interpreting of statistics finding, which we get from the group of data set, from large group of data set. And the last point is communicating results. Basically, central tendency provide a clear and concise way to communicate the findings of a wide audience. So it includes policymakers, stakeholder, or you can say a general public. For example, reporting the average household income in a country help policymaker to understand the economic condition and to formulate policy on the basis of that. So we can say that on the basis of these above importance, which we have discussed, we can say that central tendency is essential because it simplifies complex data into a single representative value, which helps in comparisons and which helps in decision making on the basis of the analysis. and it also enhance the communication of statistic findings among various domains. So basically, central tendency is a fundamental concept in statistics that unpaired much of our understanding and interpretation of numerical data in everyday life, and in academician research. So these are the basic importance for central tendency. So if we talk, let's discuss some characteristics of central tendency. What are the main characteristics if we discuss about the central tendency? So basically, central tendency need to be adequately specified, and it should be clear. So it should not be subject to varied interpretation, and it need to be unaffected by any individual biasness. So the measure of basically central tendency should be easy to understand, and it should be easy to compute. So because it involve mathematical calculation, so it should be easy to understand, and it should be easy to compute. So for the value which we obtain from the computation of measuring of central tendency, it should be representative of the data. The whole data set which we are computing, it should be representative of that data. So, com- uh, for measuring central tendency, the data need to be collected from a sample. That is, that sample should truly represent the population. The sample which we used for from the which we have taken from the population, it 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 need to be randomly selected, or you can take any other technique for collecting data uh, according to your data set. So basically, the measure of central tendency need to be display sampling stability, and should not be affected by any fluctuation in the sample. Suppose if two different researcher or two different scholar want to obtain a representative sample from a same population, so the mean computed by them for their respective sample should display their least variability. Okay, so central tendency basically should not affect by any outliers, and central tendency should itself mathematical computation, as it use formula in mean median mode for calculating large set of data and to display a value in a single term. So this is the basic meaning of central tendency. So if we so the concept of central tendency is now clear, and we will now process to discuss the three measure of central tendency. The three measure of central tendency that we will discuss are mean, uh, mean or arithmetic mean, median, and the mode. These are the three measures of central tendency which will be discussed in detail. We will discuss their property, their merits, their demerits in detail. So before moving towards the meaning of mean, median, and mode, uh, how to choose a measure of central tendency? There is a question arise: how to choose a measure of central tendency? So the choice of measure of central tendency will totally depend on, first of all, the scale of measure that we discuss in our first unit. What will be the scale? Uh, the For a nominal scale, one can compute mode but not mean or median. Nominal scale means For example, in case of male and female, the male can be coded as 1 and female can be coded as 2, or vice versa. In such a case, we can compute frequently occurring score. That will provide us information whether there are more males or the more females in our sample size. So basically, we have to convert our quantitative data into qualitative data, into numbers, so that we can run statistical techniques, or we can run statistical tool software on that data to get a proper, or to get a value, or to give a meaning to that value. So, however, it is not possible to compute mean or median with regard to ordinal scale. Median or mode can be used. For example, if we rank the student based on their performance in mathematical test, it is possible to find mean. So sorry, it is possible to find median above which lie half of the rank. So mode can also be computed if one student get same rank with regard to various interval. So in that case, we can find out the mode. So another aspect is that it is important while making a choice with regard to which measure of central tendency to use is whether the data is normally distributed or not. If the data is normally distributed, if we can compute mean. If it is not normally distributed, then we will compute median and the mode. So this is because mean may not adequate represent the data when the data is not normally distributed. So while applying any kind of test, we have to check whether the data is normally distributed or not normally distributed. So before choosing any measure, we have to follow certain guidelines or certain rules. Okay, after that we can choose any method for which we are going to analyze our data. Now let's come to the concept of mean, median and mode. So as you can see on the screen, when we will discuss in detail the mean, median and mode and their formula, and we will start with the numerical solution. These are some common terms which you will find in formulas. So summation means sum of, n denote the number, the total number of being. Uh, X show a row score, M show mean of the sample, and this show the sum of X. So these are the common values or common symbols which are used while calculating central tendency. Now let's come to the concept of mean. First, we will start with the concept of mean. So basically, the mean represent the average value of the data set. So for doing calculation through mean, the data should be normally distributed. So it can be calculated as the sum of all the values of the data set divided by the number of the value. As you can also see in this formula, mean is equal to sum of all the value of data set and divided by the number of the value. So in general, it is considered as the arithmetic mean, some other measure of mean used to find the central tendency, which are geometric mean, arithmetic mean, and weighted mean. These three type of mean also we will discuss in our further lectures. First, let's cover the mean, median, and mode. So, basically, it is observed that if all the values in the data set are the same, then all the geometric, arithmetic, and harmonic mean value are the same. So if there is variability in the data, then the mean value differ. Calculating the mean value is completely easy. Okay, so now what is mean? So basically mean represent the average value of the data set, and it can be calculated as the sum of all the values divided by the number of the values. So as this formula also says the same thing. So as mean for the sample is denoted by m, which is also x bar, and the mean for population is denoted by mu. Okay, so it is one of the most commonly used measure of central tendency and is often referred to as average. So it can also be termed as one of the most sensitive measure of central tendency, as all the score in a data are taken into consideration when it is computed. So further statistical technique can be computed based on mean. So thus making it even more useful. So mean is a total of all the score in data which are divided by the total number of score. So, for example, if there are 100 students in class and we want to find their mean average marks, which are obtained by them in science test, so we will add all their marks and divide it by them to 100. So, that is the number of students to obtain mean. So, this is how the meaning of mean work. So before going towards the merit and demerits of mean, let's discuss the properties of mean. So as mean is a sensitive to the actual position of each and every score in a distribution, and if another score is included in the distribution, then the mean or average of the distribution will change. As you can see in this example, there is an example on your screen. You can check. So, for example, mean of the score is 5, 4, 6, 3, and 2. Okay, uh, these are the score, and these are the values, and the score of these value is 4. So we got the value of 4 by adding 5, 4, 6, 3, and 2, okay, is 20, and then we will divide this value 20 by 5, as there are total 5 numbers. So that is the total number of score, which is also known as n. We can denote it with n, as we have I have also shown in this formula, which says that mean is equal to sum of total value divided by n. So here in this example we have added all the values 5, 4, 6, 3, and 2. The total score is 20, and we have divided it by n, which is 5. So that is the total but so the answer is 4. We can say that mean is equal to 4. So, but if we change the score from 5, 4, 6, 3, 2, and 8, the mean will be 4.67. In this case, we have got this value 4.67 by adding 5, 4, 6, 3, 2, and 8. The value is 28, and we have divided this 28 with the total number, which is n, is equal to 6. So, this is how we calculate the mean. So, this is how mean is calculated. So mean basically denotes a balance point of any distribution and the total of positive deviation from the mean, which is equal to the negative deviation from the mean. So mean is especially effective when we want to measure central tendency to reflect the sum of the score. If we want to calculate the sum of a particular score, a particular data set, then it is very effective to calculate mean. So after all these property of mean, let's come to the merits and demerits of mean. So basically merits and demerits are the term which are used to describe the advantage and disadvantage, or you can say strength and weaknesses of something. So they can be applied to avoid to various contexts such as decision and some various policies, actions for various terms. So for mean,